What do you get when you take 28 acres of rail yards, pump in $25 billion, and promise to build the future of urban living? You get Hudson Yards, New York City's most expensive private real estate project, hailed as a modern marvel and slammed as a soulless playground for the ultra-rich. Touted as a city within a city, Hudson Yards boasts towering glass skyscrapers, luxury condos, high-end shopping, and the Vessel, a bizarre honeycomb-like structure meant to be Instagram heaven. But behind the glitz, critics argue it's nothing more than a billionaire's dream, built with tax breaks and public funds while pushing out local communities. The project was meant to redefine Manhattan's West Side. But did it? Many claim it lacks character, catering only to the wealthy while offering little to everyday New Yorkers. The public spaces feel corporate and uninviting, the affordability factor is questionable at best, and even the workforce behind it has faced scrutiny. Accusations of exploitative labor practices have surfaced. Beyond that, the development has also struggled to deliver on its promises. Office spaces remain unfilled, and the surrounding infrastructure hasn't adapted to the influx of workers and residents as expected. So, is Hudson Yards the crown jewel of modern urban planning, or just another example of money shaping a city for the few? Either way, one thing is certain. It's one of the most controversial urban developments in history. Ever thought that one dam could generate more power than any other on Earth, control devastating floods, and revolutionize a nation's water system? That was the promise of China's Three Gorges Dam, the world's largest hydroelectric project. But with power comes controversy. Was it worth the cost? Built on the Yangtze River, the dam spans over 2.3 kilometers and stands 181 meters tall. It is capable of producing 22,500 megawatts of electricity, enough to power nearly 2 million homes, charge over 10 million Teslas at once, or keep an entire country like Australia running at peak demand. It was designed to fuel China's rapid growth while taming the deadly floods that plagued the region for centuries. On paper, it sounds like a miracle of modern engineering. In reality, it came with irreversible consequences. Over 1.3 million people were displaced as entire towns were submerged beneath rising waters. Archaeological sites, some dating back thousands of years ago, disappeared forever. The project also triggered landslides, increased seismic activity, and disrupted ecosystems, endangering species like the Chinese river dolphin. Beyond the environmental damage, critics argue that the dam's benefits are overstated. Seasonal droughts still occur, and sediment buildup threatens its long-term efficiency. Some experts even warn that climate change could make its flood control measures obsolete. So, is the Three Gorges Dam a triumph of human ingenuity, or a cautionary tale of overreach? It solved some problems, but created new ones China will be dealing with for generations to come. Dharavi, one of Asia's largest slums, is a city within a city, a maze of narrow alleys, bustling workshops, and an informal economy worth over $1 billion. Now, a multi-billion-dollar redevelopment project aims to transform it into a modern urban hub. But will this ambitious plan uplift its residents, or erase their way of life? Located in the heart of Mumbai, Dharavi is home to nearly 1 million people, living in makeshift homes yet thriving with small-scale industries producing leather goods, textiles, and pottery. The redevelopment promises high-rise apartments, better sanitation, and improved infrastructure. However, critics argue that the plan threatens Dharavi's tightly woven social and economic fabric. The biggest fear is mass displacement. Many residents worry they won't qualify for the promised housing and could be pushed to the city's outskirts, far from their jobs. The informal economy that sustains Dharavi could collapse under corporate interests, leaving thousands jobless. Supporters call it progress, a long overdue solution to Mumbai's housing crisis. They see modernization as the path forward, but opponents argue it's gentrification disguised as development, where the poor are forced out to make way for wealthy investors. So, the question remains, will Dharavi's transformation be a success story, or just another urban project that forgets the people it was meant to help? Picture a palm tree rising from the sea, its massive fronds stretching into the Arabian Gulf, lined with luxury villas, 5-star resorts, and glitzy skyscrapers. This is Palm Jumeirah, Dubai's audacious attempt to redefine urban development. Built on reclaimed land, this artificial island is an engineering marvel, but beneath the glamour lies a storm of controversy. The project, launched in the early 2000s, was meant to boost tourism and real estate, and it did. Celebrities and billionaires rushed to claim properties, while Dubai cemented its reputation for defying nature itself. But at what cost? The environmental damage has been staggering. The delicate marine ecosystem was disrupted, coral reefs were buried, and coastal erosion accelerated. Critics argue that Palm Jumeirah is sinking, literally. Satellite data suggests the island is gradually subsiding due to the weight of its construction. Meanwhile, rising sea levels pose a growing threat, making long-term sustainability a major concern. Despite these issues, Palm Jumeirah remains an icon of modern luxury. Its success led to even more ambitious projects, like the World Island. But was this the price of progress, or a warning of what happens when human ambition pushes the limits of nature? Suppose a place so densely packed that sunlight barely reached the ground, where buildings were stacked haphazardly and narrow alleyways twisted in an ungovernable labyrinth. This was Kowloon Walled City, once the most densely populated place on Earth. Originally a Chinese military outpost, the city became a legal gray zone after World War II. With neither British nor Chinese authorities willing to take full responsibility, it evolved into an anarchic microcosm, home to 33,000 people crammed into just 6.4 acres. Buildings fused together without regulation, forming a chaotic hive of over 300 interconnected structures. Shops, factories, and apartments coexisted in an eerie, self-sustaining ecosystem. Despite its reputation for crime and squalor, Kowloon Walled City thrived in its own way. Residents lived by an unspoken code, businesses operated freely, and families found a sense of community within the madness. Yet, the overcrowding, lack of sanitation, and structural instability made it unsustainable. By the 1980s, authorities finally decided to act. Demolition began in 1993, erasing the walled city forever. Today, Kowloon Walled City Park stands in its place, a quiet memorial to what was once an urban anomaly. But was it a dystopian nightmare, or a testament to human resilience? What if your dream home was secretly sitting on a buried disaster? Love Canal, New York, a suburban community unknowingly built on 21,000 tons of toxic chemical waste. What started as a hopeful development quickly turned into one of the worst environmental catastrophes in U.S. history. In the 1940s, the Hooker Chemical Company used Love Canal as a dumping ground for hazardous chemicals, sealing the waste underground. Years later, homes and a school were built over it, with residents unaware of the danger beneath their feet. Then, strange things began happening. Noxious odors, black sludge oozing into basements, and an alarming rise in birth defects, cancer, and respiratory diseases. By the late 1970s, the truth could no longer be ignored. Investigations revealed dangerously high levels of toxic chemicals containing the soil and water. Public outrage, led by local activist Lois Gibbs, forced the government to act. Hundreds of families were evacuated, and Love Canal became a symbol of environmental negligence. The disaster led to the creation of the Superfund program, a law ensuring corporate polluters would be held accountable. But even after cleanup efforts, can you ever truly erase a toxic legacy? Love Canal remains a haunting reminder of what happens when profits are put above public safety, a lesson the world cannot afford to forget. Will America ever get its own bullet train? That's the million, or rather, $100 billion question haunting the California high-speed rail project. Once envisioned as a revolutionary transit system connecting Los Angeles to San Francisco in under 3 hours, this ambitious plan has instead become a poster child for delays, budget overruns, and political gridlock. Approved by voters in 2008 with an initial budget of $33 billion, the high-speed rail was supposed to be completed by 2020. Fast forward to today, and only a fraction of the tracks have been laid in the middle of California's Central Valley, nowhere near major cities. Costs have skyrocketed to over $100 billion, and the completion date keeps getting pushed further into the future. So, what went wrong? Legal battles over land acquisition, environmental concerns, and constant political fights have turned this dream into a bureaucratic nightmare. Critics argue it's an overambitious money pit, while supporters believe it's the future of sustainable transportation if it ever gets finished. Will California's high-speed rail ever become a reality, or will it remain a cautionary tale of grand visions and poor execution? At this rate, it might be faster to walk from LA to San Francisco. For centuries, Les Halles was the beating heart of Paris, a chaotic, vibrant marketplace known as the Belly of Paris. But by the 1970s, this historic hub was deemed outdated, overcrowded, and in desperate need of modernization. What followed was one of the most controversial urban redevelopment projects in French history. In 1971, the city tore down the iconic iron and glass market pavilions, replacing them with an underground shopping mall and transportation hub. The result? A soulless, concrete monstrosity that locals despised. What was once a cultural and culinary landmark had been transformed into an architectural eyesore, a bleak, sunken void in the middle of Paris. Public outrage was so intense that by the early 2000s, city officials admitted their mistake. A new redevelopment plan was launched featuring a modern canopy structure called La Canopy, green spaces, and improved public areas. Yet, even the redesign sparked debates. Today, Les Halles is once again a bustling center, but the scars of its past still linger. Was this transformation a necessary evolution, or a tragic loss of Parisian heritage? That depends on who you ask. Which urban development project surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know if you'd like to see more stories of controversial decisions shaping our cities.